Great. So it's great to have you on the show, like I said before.
It's great to be on the show with you, my brother, and appreciate all the words you were sharing earlier.
You know, sometimes it feels like words are falling on deaf ears. I know you as a leader might feel like that sometimes. A lot of frustration. Even with successes, there's some frustration.
Well, actually, I've been at it a long time, so I've been involved in the movement over 45 years, and one of the things that I've learned to understand is patience and tolerance, because I do know it's a universal law that what comes around goes around.
Okay.
But the biggest problem is people don't raise their consciousness. It's not just about being educated.
Gotcha.
It's about being aware of your history, heritage, and culture. Sometimes we tend to overlook the fact that we've been in control on this planet way, 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 way longer than we've been out of control and oppressed by the system of white supremacy. And then also, I gotta add, our own apathy and ignorance.
For those who don't know, how long, by your calculations, thinking back using history, have we not been in control?
Well, I would give it 850 years maybe.
Okay, so that's about...
We've been about 4.5 million years of age on the planet by our scientific study.
To me, as someone as a man of African descent living in America, what does that mean?
Well, it actually means that we're coming of age. We just are moving slow. We're moving at a slow pace because we've been hoodwinked by the system of white supremacy not to understand our real blacktricity or our real power. So consequently, what we find happening today is us wallowing in our own defeat rather than going after victory. That's very important for young brothers and sisters to understand, because it's like a lot of generations in those 800 some odd years. So we tend to look at things more from the lows, the negatives, the bad things that are happening, and not focus on the good things.
Right.
Okay, and if you go back to the principle of Tahuti, and I'll kind of explain that to everybody, you know, ancient Kemetic philosophy is very important.
Definitely.
Hermes Trismegistus is what the Greeks called Tahuti, but he came out with the Hermetic principles. And one of the major principles is the principle of polarity. You never have a negative without positives.
Definitely.
And positives always can overrule the negatives controlling the way people vibe. And that's universal law, that's black law.
Definitely. So for someone living in a negative situation, wherever in the city, how can we on the individual level bring a little bit of that positivity, even if we're living in a capitalistic society? We have to pay bills, we have to meet obligations.
Sure, I like to give metaphysical and spiritual answers first, but I'll give both practical answers too. But the metaphysical issue is not knowing who you are, right, and not realizing you have the power inside of you to do anything. Right. I like to call it black. We're not clear of enough of who we are. Most of us don't know we're Africans. Most of us don't know Africa is our original homeland, and it's the original homeland of all humanity, really. Definitely. So once you realize that, then you have to become conscious of how to deal with situations like the Black Lives Matter movement, for an example. Yeah. Haven't Black Lives Matter all the time?
Oh, yeah. What are your thoughts about? There are two schools of thoughts about that.
Yes.
A lot of, you give your black people who say, well, Black lives do matter, but let's talk more about what's happening in the community. Girl just got shot reading a book. You have those who are supporters of the movement, of course.
Yeah, actually, both of those are important. Let me explain. First of all, when I say Black Lives Matter, I'm not talking about the mobilization effort that's underway now. I'm talking about the organization that takes place with that.
Okay.
For example, if a young child is growing up knowing Black Lives Matter, he's going to know his life matters. Right. So he's going to value his life. Then you have to put on top of that the values. You have to teach that child and give that child a way to get back to the somewhat ancient principles of Mahat. Right. Okay, to understand that we will never have any justice as long as the system of white supremacy is in control. Now that does not mean that you don't fight against that system and demand for those laws and that system to change. But that's just mobilizing, right, and that's just asking for what is just to us anyway.
That's a good segue to a question I want to ask you that's been waiting on my mind. I'm curious as to your opinion about just what the Black Lives Matter people have been doing. They've been interrupting campaign speeches recently. They met with Hillary Clinton.
Right.
Another sect of that movement, they're going to talk to Barry Sanders now and present a 10-point plan. To your point about being under white supremacy and fighting it, You know, how effective is their solution?
Well, you see, I come from a race-first background. I'm a Garvey. That's the 10th President General and 9th successor to Garvey. We don't waste a lot of time, you know, begging those who are not really concerned really about us rising. And that is something that becomes a diversion in the real movement. Yet people have a right to do what they wish to do, but the reality is we've done that already. We've been doing that since we've been here, you know. And the reality is that we have prisoners of war and political prisoners. And that consists of African people as far as we're concerned, because prisoners of war are everybody, those who are incarcerated and those who are walking around, because they don't understand sovereignty. Sovereignty is not something a man should be able to control from you. It's a birthright. So my biggest concern with the Black Lives Matter movement is that they need to focus on movements that preceded that brought things to this level. You were mentioning Katrina earlier, for an example. Didn't Black Lives Matter then? But we expected a system to come to our rescue that wants us not even on the planet. You say Black Lives Matter in the United States, what about Africa? Every day, thousands of African children are murdered and butchered. Sometimes by external and sometimes by themselves, by not knowing. Yeah. So the reality is, don't those lives matter just as much as our lives? We haven't done anything to change that. Imagine if we do something to change that, the power that we would have in Africa. You see? So, and if you're talking about economics, and you're talking about boycotting, like this thing coming to Washington where they say justice or else, we're going to be here, and we're going to support it. Brothers and sisters are coming, but our position is the only way you're going to get justice is to organize globally with power. So we're not about throwing no threats. We coming to reach out to our people. Anytime our people come together, that's key. So we need to organize amongst ourselves, network some of the things that are going on, particularly the younger generation, your generation. Our job is to get you all to understand these vehicles are yours. Like, for example, every African is a member of the UNIA. They don't even know the UNIA is a government and a sovereign government. They don't even know why the UNIA was established. It's for everybody. But those who pay their dues are those who are committed to the upkeep. And we're growing in number. We're in Oakland. We're in Pittsburgh now. We're actually in a penitentiary in Tennessee, Chattanooga prison, where brothers have formed their own division of the UNIA.
Is that a fact?
That's a fact.
How long has that been now?
Well, now 3 months now.
Okay.
So, but you know, the brothers came to me and said, we want our own division. We've been reading and studying. And I said, well, are you sure? And they said, absolutely sure. I said, are you sure you can withstand the pressure that might come at you? They said, absolutely. No more pressure can come at us. We're already forming our groups, but we want to be a part of the government. They don't want to be on the wrong side of history. So me being a Banneker City born African here in Washington, D.C., I want to make it clear to people as the President General that, look, don't just think it's D.C. movement. We all over the place. We're strong in Chicago, strong in New York, strong in Atlanta, getting stronger all over the U.S. of A. We're in Canada, we're in the Caribbean, we're in Africa. But our job is to interface with people. If they don't want to join with us, we work with them.
Right.
For an example, Marimba Ani is now the ambassador of Race First, sovereign development.
That's a good.
Conrad Worrell.
That's a good.
Conrad Worrell is the ambassador of reparations for the UNIA government.
As of
our convention.
That's wonderful.
You know, so it's a lot of things I can share, and it's a lot of things that are going to roll out. But if you know the history of Conrad Worrell was not only the chairman of the National Black United Front, but he's the director of the Inner City Studies, Jacob Carruthers Inner City Studies in Chicago, Illinois. And he's a long time, 45 or more years.